Today's topic is a little difficult and very important. Saving life, purity of the body, organs and body fluids, organ donation, blood transfusion, and the medical necessity. What Islam teaches us, what the Sharia says about this matter. I recited the ayah about the sanctity of human life. Quran places extraordinary value on saving single life. In Surah Al-Ma'idah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said, this is the verse number 32, chapter number 5, whosoever save one life, it is as if he has saved all humanity. And this is the point. Man ahyaha faka'annama ahya an-nasa jami'an. This single verse from the foundation of Islamic bioethics, allowing blood transfusion, organ donation, medical treatment, and modern surgical intervention. There is a law of necessity, of darura. Islam acknowledges emergency medical situations. In Surah Baqarah, chapter 2, verse number 173, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَمَنِ اضْطُرَّ غَيْرَ بَاغٍ وَلَا عَادٍ فَلَا إِثْمَ عَلَيْهِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. But whosoever is compelled by necessity, without desire or transgression, then there is no sin upon him. Surely Allah is forgiving and merciful. In this Surah Al-Ma'idah, chapter 5, verse number 3, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, whoever is compelled by severe hunger without inclination to sin, then Allah is forgiving and merciful. فَمَنِ اضْطُرَّ فِي مَخْمَصَةٍ غَيْرَ مُتَجَانِفٍ لِإِثْمٍ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. Surah Al-An'am, chapter 6, verse number 119, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, قَدْ فَصَّلَ لَكُمْ مَا حَرَّمَ عَلَيْكُمْ إِلَّا مَا اضْطَرَّرْتُمْ إِلَيْهِ. He has detailed for you what is forbidden except what you are compelled to by necessity. So the conclusion is, a Islamic procedure or medical procedure in Islam is a necessity, or a person's need this procedure or treatment for saving life. The prohibition is lifted, which is obvious. When there's nobody needs surgery, why would we operate on a person? If it doesn't need a blood transfusion, why would you give a blood transfusion? Or somebody who needs organ donation. And medical science have advanced today is learning that there are organs which regenerate and there are organs who do not regenerate. For example, if you take a liver transplant has become a very common practice. Liver is an organ. If you take a part of liver and give it to another person, that will grow to inside the body, and the one who donated will also grow. These are regenerative organs, but the kidneys do not regrow. So there's much more advances are being made in medical science and bioethics, as Islam teaches us, which was before. As we know, Islam is the first faith in the history of humanity before 6th century and after 6th century. All what we are seeing today is the Renaissance, got it from the Islamic practice of thousands of years, the book of medicine, Qanun al-Tib from Razi, canon of medicine, was practiced across the globe for thousands of years. The way of when we wash our hand before we come to the salah or when we do visit people, it was not known in that time microbial bacteria or viruses are spread, and Muslims did not have the pandemics which were spreading in Europe and other countries, which was in Islamic countries were not getting them. So this includes as a blood transfusion, organ transplantation, life-saving surgery, medication, even if it is derived from a prohibited source. This is very important to know. From a prohibited source. What does it mean? A few years ago, and not now, the insulin was given to the diabetic whose body doesn't make insulin. It's a life-saving drug. But it was extracted from a pig pancreas. And people were given. So there was a question, is it halal or haram? But if you don't give insulin, a person will die. Now they have recombinant technology. Now there's no more animal sources are used for making insulin. So it's a darura. Sharia says when there is a necessity to save a life, then haram become allowed. Not it is permissible in the permanently, but as long as there's a necessity, it can be done. Especially the blood transfusion and blood donation. I just saw that there's a sign for this masjid. They're going to have a blood drive, Brother Rafi. I was talking, what should I talk about today? So you mentioned that they're going to do the blood donation drive here, and the community should participate in it. So blood transfusion, yes, it is to save life is permissible and rewarded. As we know, as I just said, that if somebody doesn't need blood transfusion, why would we give? But the blood is not just blood. There is things in it like platelet There are factors. There are so many things in human blood, red cell, white cell, platelet, the other antibodies. All these, so many things in there that to be given if a body needs, a person needs. The medicine is advancing. So when we give a donation of the blood, the person is a donor, the person is a recipient. According to all school of Islamic thoughts, recipient does not have a problem as long as he does not react to the blood transfusion. But it does not break a wudu. If a person is in tahara, he will remain in tahara if he received the blood transfusion. But the donation, two schools, Hanafi and Hanbali, thinks you need to make a wudu again, but the Shafi and Maliki school says it is not a problem. So the fiqh has a little bit different opinion, but it's to be on the fadila and get the ajr and sawab of wudu, which again is a whole topic of ghusl and tahara and wudu. Inshallah, sometime we'll talk about it. So it does not invalidate wudu except in the Hanafi school, because I know mostly subcontinental people are Hanafi. So it's making wudu is basically is a blessing if you do it. If you don't do it, it's a fiqh ikhtilaf. Maliki and Shafi school do not think that so. So receiving blood does not break wudu, but giving blood, two school things that one should make a fresh wudu. And then organ donation in Islam permissible with condition of majority opinion. Donor's consent must be obtained. Not that somebody you put the anesthesia and you steal the kidney, which we have heard some people are being cheated and lied. And no sales of the organ is allowed according to the Sharia, because the human body is amana, is a trust of Allah. You just cannot sell the body organs. So when somebody in the family needs kidney transplant, kidney transplants, by the way, is the most advanced transplant today in America and all over the world, because there are drugs which are made, because if you get a transplant, like somebody donate an organ to another person, the body reacts like a foreign body and it destroys it. So there are medicine which suppress the recipient's immune system, so these kidneys are saving the dialysis. And there are medications which have been also being worked on, and there's a new technology, the CRISPR technology, the stem cell treatment, which inshallah in future will prevent such thing. And there is something called organ printing. The organ will be developed so there will be no need of transplant donation. The kidneys, you will take your stem cell or the body's organ, and they will develop in the lab, and inshallah will be available in ship. So Muslims, we should not be the beggars or looking for the help. We were the leaders in the history of humanity, where surgery was evolved, where institution was established, the first hospital was established, 16th century when first medical institute was established in Europe. It was the Muslim physicians who were teaching there. So Muslims were not in the back burner position, because 150 years of colonization and oppression and loss of our status, the winners get all. So they translated all the literature from Arabic into the Latin or Spanish and English, and today we think that we do not know much. Actually, Muslims were the forefront leader of treating humankind. And then deceased donor. If a dead person dies, can this organ be donated? Because today they can harvest every single thing. They can take cornea, which was given by mostly Buddhist people. Cornea could be used to save somebody's vision. As the ayah says, whoever save a life, save the entire humanity. So our body organs, because now they're going to be in future will be developing things, but now we are in the situation where it's in the transition of the stage of human knowledge and evolution and evolving, or the learning things. So we should be open-minded. Islam does not restrict us, but we should always consult with the ulama. But it is for the donation, not for sale. And this is to be understood that if we take the bodies, now they can harvest the skin, they can take bone graft, they can take heart and liver. Young people, I know one of my persons, she worked for me, her son was a young man, had a heart attack, his heart was so weak, but then he was supposed to have a transplant and he lived for about 8 to 10 years, but the drugs are very strong, and people who get recipients of the organ transplant, they have to go through those medications. So it's not an easy living, but then people want to live. People want to have it. Those who don't want, this is their own calling. So today, organ donation is something very important, and there's also certain ethical issues. When do you harvest the organ from a person who is dying or dead, but that person dying should consent for that? You can take my body organ, but should not be taken without consent. Or the next of kin, because we should always inform whenever we go to the doctors or hospital that if something happened, I'm not able to make my decision, you should have this person as my family member or friend, or whoever the trusted one, should be the durable power for medical, durable power for attorney to decide on your behalf what to be done or not. These acute illnesses could be best treated like somebody stopped breathing or have a trauma or an emergency, could be a tube, can give electric shock. Human body is a bioelectrical being. All the living beings are bioelectrical. There's a charges, as we know from the technology today, there's a nucleus. Nucleus has neutron, proton, electrons, every single cell to the bottom level, and then there's the human body. Heart has its own pacemaker, which pulsates. Brain has certain centers pacemaker. The gut has a pacemaker. Organs have a special pacemaker, which is in the rhythm of entire body. Nothing goes out of rhythm. Subhanallah, in the darkness inside the body, there is no direction from the microscopic particles to the macroscopic organ functioning in such a beautiful harmony. Food goes into the gut and broken down and then absorbed for each particle. The bacteria in the gut, they are called microbiome. They break down food and that get absorbed, and the nutrition, each nutrition goes to its place. The amino acids, the fat, the carbohydrate, all this, every single thing, subhanallah, in the darkness of inside the body, there's no light, and this each one sparks and give electrical activity. So this is a bioelectrical human being. You must have heard, somebody might have a pacemaker put in. Anybody who's a doctor understands. So Islam is one religion which put all of these in together. This is not a separate and prohibited activity. So why is the selling of the organ is prohibited in Islam? Because the human body is a trust, not a commodity, but compensating for the hardship, lost income or transport, or the medical cost, the one for the donor should be also given, taking into consideration. So these things, we cannot say, give me your kidney, but then pay the cost of it also. So this is something reasonable because you're doing it out of generosity, and you know that somebody who is donating also needs certain financial help. We have a zakat program in Islam where sadaqah and zakat can help those people who are in need rather than asking them to give their organ. But if there's a need and the person is willing, mostly there's a now donation match for the organ donors. If you have there's the exchange program. Suppose you have an organ, you want to donate your kidney to your family, or somebody wants to donate to you, and that is not matching. So you can go into the match program where you can give kidney to somebody who is matching, and the other person's kidney will be given to you. So there are a lot of things that are going on. We should not live in the dark. We do not know many of these information, but as the technology is moving, kids read these stuff and they may know more about it. The spiritual reflection, Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam have said in the Muslim 2699, whosoever relieve a believers of distress in this world, Allah will relieve him of distress in the day of resurrection. So organ donation is one of the greatest form of relieving a distress. I have known people in the health profession, we see people whose kidneys are failing, the young people, the old person. And we know many in the community who have received, people don't come and talk about their health, but we as a Muslim should be knowing. There was a time in Pakistan, those who are Pakistani would know, there was a Dr. Rizvi, he was my friend's uncle, and he was the only doctor who was doing the corneal transplant. And they were coming from Sri Lanka, the Buddhist people were donating their body for the study. We would have not studied medicine unless we have their bodies for being studied from how to know the anatomy of person. But today medicine has advanced, so now they don't need cadavers, dead bodies. They now run with the other technology available. So tahara, the purity of body excretion and the human body milk. So why mother milk is not impure? It is not najis, it is tahar. This is something very beautiful. There's an entire lecture, inshallah, someday I will talk about, just to briefly touch upon the purity of milk. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said in the Surah Nahl, chapter 16, verse number 66, we give you drink of milk, pure and pleasant, from between excretion and blood. نسقيكم مما في بطونه من بين فرس ودم لبنا خالصا سائغا للشاربين. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have declared the milk is pure. And this is coming between the two places in a cow's body, which has been mentioned, that is between the waist and the blood. Both blood is not pure, so as the waist is not pure. So now you could see why Hanafi says that you need to make wudu, because blood is considered not pure. But it's inside body, anything is pure. When it comes outside, that becomes najis. So we have stool in our colon as we are sitting here. We have urine in our bladder. We have saliva. it's not pure. But if you see in common sense, anything coming out of the below the waist, make you do wudu again. If anything coming out of air or fluid, you spit, you sneeze, you cough, that's not considered to break the wudu. So these are just general concepts. So mother milk is described as nourishment. This baby cannot eat or drink anything other than mother's milk. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have put protein, carbohydrate, sugar, all the nutrients in it. There's a scientific study done on a male in chimpanzees. There's a scientific study which very much correlates to the human also, that if mother gave birth to a male child, her milk has a different ingredients or concentration compared to a female child. Subhanallah. It is happening by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have no control over it. This is how it is. And when the baby suckles on mother's breast, it doesn't break her wudu. Actually, it produces a hormone which is called oxytocin, which brings a very close relation between bonding. You see, oxytocin is a hormone secreted when a person has very emotional. When we are in love, we are emotional. This is why mother and child has a very special relation. No matter how old the children are, mother has a special place for them and the child has a special, so both have this hormone in the brain excreted. So it's pure, it's not a waste, and legislated by nursing in Quran and Sunnah. So it does not break wudu and it is considered clean, and neither breastfeeding nor touching milk nor leaking milk, as mother may have during the nursing time, may have leakage of the milk from her body, it does not break her wudu. So Islam stands alone in detail, precision and biological accuracy. No other faith talks about the milk and the wudu and the tahara the way Islam teaches us. This is very specific. You do cross faith search. They think it's good, it's customary, it is necessity, they honor that mother should nurse the baby. And science have discovered that children whose mother nursed them, they are 11% more intelligent than the other children. And there is a Sharia says, nurse baby for 2 years, that's 24 months. No religion says 2 months as Quran has commanded it. Nursing baby for 2 years because the human infant has certain underdeveloped part of his or her intestine or in the body which absorbs certain things, and this is what called kinship, the milk kinship, that one Muslim cannot marry to the other person of the same mother who have nursed. Wet nurses children become your blood brothers and sisters, because after 2 years if somebody drinks the mother's milk or woman's milk, that does not make them. So because adult body does not take those special chemical in the body which the infant up to 2 years can absorb and become the part of the mother's nursing to the other children. So it's very, very specific, very fascinating knowledge we are coming. So science is discovering things which Quran has spoken 1500 years ago, and no faith has spoken about it in this matter as precise as the Sharia, as the guidelines, as the Quranic commands and the hadith of Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam have been. So this is amazing for us to know that what today has been discovered. So Islam is the only faith which sets a specific breastfeeding period, permits wet nursing with instructed rules, create legal kinship through breastfeeding, forbid marriage between the milk siblings, limit kinship creation of infancy 0 to 2 years. From a birth to 2 years, you can become your sibling and a brother, and matches every modern scientific discovery on infant physiology. Every other religion considers it natural, it's valuable, it's compassionate, it's traditional, but not legally regulated, not spiritually codified, and not connected to the kinship. Islamic law is uniquely biological, protective, and scientifically aligned in the sign of divine revelation. Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam have blessed traces. The Sahaba honored every drop of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's wudu. Just imagine, wudu is a musta'mil, water which is used. Suppose if any one of us make wudu here, and the water fell down, you cannot do the wudu till it goes through the cycle of purification. Evaporation, condensation, and then coming. وَأَنزَلَ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ مَاءً فَأَحْيَا بِالْأَرْضِ بَعْدَ مَوْتِهَا. The water becomes cycle if you go through the process of either artificial, physical, that is, we know the water get into the water sanitation system cycle, evaporates and then come down. That's the one cycle of purification. Natural cycle is when the water evaporates from the dirt, condense in the cloud, and rain comes in, that becomes pure, tahir. But Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, wudu. If he would make wudu, the people would not let the drop of his wudu water fall down. They will take it and rub it on their faces and on their body. And the one who could not get to touch it, he will touch the body of the other one who had a wet body and rub it on himself for the blessing and barakah. This is the place of Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam. See, not every rule of the humanity apply upon the prophets because they are designated to be such. Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, when he would spit, people will not let his spit go down on the ground. They will take it and rub it on their face and on their body for the barakah. So body waste, spit is body waste. And we medically tell people, don't touch anybody's spit, it's dirty. Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, the spit is not dirty. This is what is the barakah in this by Bi'iznillah. It is again, he not by himself, it is by the izn of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, as Isa alayhi salam says, إِنِّي أَخْلَقُ لَكُم مِّنَ الطَّيْنِ كَهِيَةِ الطَّيْرِ فَانفُخُ فِيهِ فَيَكُونُ طَيْرًا بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ وَأُبْرِئُ الْأَكْمَحَ وَالْأَبْرَصَ وَأُحْيِي الْمَوْتَى بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ وَأُنَبِّئُكُم بِمَا تَأْكُلُونَ وَمَا تَدَّخِرُونَ فِي بُيُوتِكُمْ إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَاتٍ لَكُمْ إِن كُنتُم مُؤْمِنِينَ. Isa alayhi salam will raise the dead and heal the blind and walk and the leper and all those things بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ. When Allah's izn is there, then the prophets can perform the miracle. So prophetic miracle is actually the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As we designate somebody, your authority to do this thing, Allah make entire creation subjected to these people. And this is how the karama and the mu'azzat can happen. See, when Allah does, it's called amal. When prophets do, it is called mu'izza. When awliya Allah do, it is known as karama. And when non-believers do, it's called istadraj. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave a non-believer also sometimes this authority. So if some non-Muslim is doing something supernatural, it doesn't mean he is divinely guided. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can give permission to anybody to do anything. Allah does not require this thing. So we have to be very clear in our concept. Aqidah is la ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. Somebody may fly in the air and raise the dead and walk on the water. Bring the dead people out of the grave because Dajjal is going to do that. Do not believe in that person. Do not think he is righteous till he says la ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. And follow the sunnah of Muhammad Rasulullah. It is very possible. Today, you can drive drones. You can make things fly. You can make things go into the water. So do not be impressed. Do not be intimidated. Somebody start levitating and exercise on all that. Magicians can do a lot of miracles. No, Islam does not require this. In Urdu we call shobda bazi. You know shobda? There's one who showed tricks of magical tricks. La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah is the ground for us to believe in anybody. And okay, if you do such a miracle, does not mean I should follow you. I will still follow Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Sunnah is only for Rasulullah. As we know, somebody may say, well, I am exempted from salah because I have reached my level. It was a shaitan who could think of such thing. Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam was asked by Umm al-Mu'mineen Aisha radiallahu anha, why you pray so long in the night, your feet get swollen. He said, should I not be a grateful servant to my Lord? So if Rasulullah is not exempted from the salah, nobody is exempted. If Rasulullah did not do the killing of innocent and unjust thing in the name of Allah, nobody is allowed to do it. As we know that in Pakistan, you may have heard the military have taken over and now he's telling that he's doing it for fi sabilillah. You're getting paid for it, man. What are you talking fi sabilillah? You passed a law where you cannot be tried. These Prophet was answering to the people. How could you be exempted? Even the kings of Middle East, those who are the worst of the human being ever existed, they are also accountable. Now, General of Pakistan is not accountable. And where in the world this Islam is coming from? And they say we got ordered by defending haram. No, you are defending the kingdom, not the haram. Haram is not their property. So we have to be a little careful. These words play. Why we are so cynical? Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu stood with a kurta, a piece of cloth which he had shared from his son. And people said, Umar, you did not have this right to have this long shirt cloth. How come you got it? He has to explain, my son Abdullah has given his share to me to make a cloak. A cloak is being questioned from Amir al-Mu'mineen. And here you are, you can do anything in Pakistan, 250 million people, and then you're not accountable. Subhanallah. And they were used to, Sahaba used to fight, they would almost fight to one another to collect the water from the wudu of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So for us as a Muslim, And again, the sweat, human sweat, there are two ways to excrete the body, sweat or water. Food eliminates a bowel. Fluid eliminates a sweat or tears or urine. Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam's sweat was with the fragrance. This has been documented across the history of Islam. No one's sweat is smelling like musk, and people would know when he would pass by someplace that Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam left this area. Even the trees and the rocks. Hajar Aswad used to do salam to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This has been documented. Ali radiallahu ta'ala narrated that. So these things are unique to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If somebody has a fragrance on their body, it doesn't mean that we should say, oh, you're like Rasulullah. No, nobody is like Muhammad Rasulullah. This is, we all understand, but for the children, we have to remind ourselves. So the permissibility of, there's another thing about in vitro fertilization. That's a technology being practiced today, that if a person, family, husband, wife cannot conceive a child, they take the sperm of the father and ovum from the mother and develop in the lab, and then they reinsert into mother's womb. In Sharia, only husband and wives are allowed for that. This is where the moral and ethics come. Science does not give moral and ethics. Faith gives the moral and ethics. So this is something which, as a Muslim, our religion teaches us, our scholars have contemplated upon it, so we need to be patient with such things. So it is only allowed when you breed this embryo is into the married couple, not other ones. And doing a genetic testing is allowed. Some people don't want to know. We should know as a Muslim, if a child is genetically not healthy, or the baby in the mother's womb. So now technology is coming where they can do what is called gene editing. I'm sure some of you have heard who are from the medical profession. Gene editing is basically like I take a strip of DNA and splice it and put a viral RNA. They take virus RNA and put it in place. It happens, subhanAllah, the defect of genetic illnesses is gone. Now, sickle cell disease was one of the very incurable diseases. It could be treated today, which is a genetic defect. And I remember when I first started my residency, I was working in emergency room. There was one child, she was very ill. She was always becoming almost every other week. Extreme painful condition, sickle cell. The red blood cells become sickled like a little cricket, and they do not work, and they stuck in the artery. They get kidney damage, they get a stroke, they get a lot of suffering. So alleviating the suffering by advancing technology and learning more is allowed in the Sharia. So gene and editing and other work for the health of the mankind is allowed, as we know. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Hajj, وَمَا جَعَلَ عَلَيْكُمْ فِي الدِّينِ مِنْ حَرَجٍ, and Allah has placed no hardship upon you in the religion. And in Surah Baqarah, يُرِيدُكُمُ اللَّهُ بِكُمُ الْيُسْرَ وَلَا يُرِيدُ بِكُمُ الْعُسْرَ. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and Allah desires to ease for you, not the hardship. And then his medical treatment is part of tawakkul, not a contradiction. Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, when he was ill, he took health treatment in those days. And al-Mu'mineen Aisha radiallahu anha, she used to be there when people would come from different places to suggest what to be treated for. She actually compiled a book of those treatments. So seeking help and help is a part of Islamic faith. There's sometimes we cannot afford it, is another issue, but one should not deny the treatment. Now, a very common thing which I hear in America, we are in America, so we are all American. There's a multi-billion-dollar industry of supplements. Multi-billion-dollar. When the prescription medicine is given, patient said, I don't want to take it because there are side effects. As an educated person, I'm in the business, so I understand what they're talking about. Every chemical, every food product, every ingested product, any herb, any roots, or any what we call jari booty in Urdu, they are active chemical compounds. Because they go in body, they're broken down by our intestine, the bacteria break them out, and then it gets absorbed, and those chemicals get released. Today, medical science has advanced to the level where when they do introduce a drug, they do double-blind control study. They give a medicine, and doctor doesn't know, the patient doesn't know, double-blind, both don't know. Some get medicine, some get placebo. Placebo means like any sugar pill. So when they see the results of it, They check the blood work, they check the patient's complaint, and then they approve it. Then they come with the census that 50% work, placebo is 50%. If you give somebody nothing, 50% people will get better. That's a placebo effect. So with half of it is in your mind. First half battle is won in the head before in the body. And if you don't trust the drug and slightest symptom happen, people say, I have a reaction. They're anxious people. If you take a pill within 5 minutes you have a reaction, it's not a reaction. It's basically does not even absorb in your body unless something gets absorbed in the mouth. Bottom line is, what I'm trying to say is that people take the herbs and they think this is okay. But when they take the prescription medicine, they have a problem. And people often stop taking blood pressure pill, heart pill, kidney pill, sugar pill, and they end up having a severe complication in their body. So take the treatment. If you have a problem, talk to the doctor. You can go back and tell them, I don't want to take this, give me something else. But don't stop. Many people stop on their own because somebody said so, somebody heard it. You know, YouTube, full of all the Hikmat formula. There's no proof. So people are getting conned with that. Second thing is, anybody ever ask you to invest money, they're going to give you more than average available market return. That's a fraud. Just now I learned a person had $300,000 because they were planning to give them a returning of 25%. Who would give you 25%?
Nobody.
It's an open fraud. They don't even need intelligence to do it. Person lost $300,000, a lot of savings. Brothers is pointing out to stop it now. Okay, inshallah, we'll stop now. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin.